welcome back. Now that you know how the roads are looking, it's time, as always, right here on K24 This Morning to be fully informed as you get onto your day proper. If you see anything on the roads, please keep us in the loop as well. Get us at K24 TV or alternatively SMS us on 21222. We'll start off by looking at the front pages of the dailies and then from there jump into my panel and see what they think of the big stories of the day. We'll start off with the front page of the People Daily. MPs challenged Ruto to resign for quote-unquote defying Uhuru. Pro-Raila politicians accuse DP of undermining his boss and call for law amendment to give president powers to fire his deputy. That's what they're talking about on the front page of the PD this morning. Also, the puzzle as family disowns stowaway. Parents say their son is in remand prison in Nairobi after being charged with defilement. Quite an about turn of a story right there. Makes the front page of your People Daily. Same story in the front page of the Daily Nation, by the way. Man's family denials point to a cover-up. Woman captured on video seeking help to bring son's body home for burial now denies having a child by that name, as the airport's authority says Paul Manyasi never worked at JKIA from where flight departed, but failed to reveal identity of stowaway or talk about investigations into the June incident that exposed a serious security lapse. That's what the Daily Nation is leading with in this particular story. Also, on the front page of the Daily Nation, looking at Kibra vote, spawning new alignments. We saw what that meant on the final day of campaigns at the Kibra by-election. Those are new political formations we should expect as we move closer to 2022. That's what analysts are looking at, of course, and we'll be talking about that right here on the show as well. Front page of the Standard, handshake MPs ask Ruto to quit. We need changes in constitution so that the president can sack a deputy who decides to be rogue mid-term. You cannot claim to be the deputy when you continuously undermine your boss in any project you do. That quote from Borabu MP Ben Momanyi right there. More than 25 leaders dare DP to confront president instead of fighting Matiang'i and Karanja Kibisho. That's a story that you can get, and it's on the front page of your Standard today. Front page of the Star. Stowaway saga takes new turn over identity. Kakamega man tells local media son is alive despite contrary claims to Sky News. KCAA differs with KAA on possible link of man to JKIA workforce. So already conflicting stories right there, but what's needed at the end of the day is the truth on this particular saga. And you can get more details of that in your copy of The Star this morning. Finally, on the front page of the Business Daily, Kenya upgrades Kisumu old rail track, dims SGR. 3.8 billion shillings Nakuru Kisumu refurbishment to link Western Kenya port to Uganda. What does that mean for the SGR, of course, as we move forward? Is that an investment gone wrong? We'll be talking about that as well, of course, as we look at the Big Four agenda and what it means for the development record of this administration. My panel is ready to jump into the big stories of the day. Let me introduce them as well. Dennis Anyoka, advocate of the High Court. Karibu sana.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Ben Mulwa, of course, governance expert, making another return, of course, in the show. Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning to you.
And from Poland with love, Mr. Gabriel Muthuma. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you doing?
Very well. How was Poland? How did it treat you?
It was amazing.
It was
good. It was
okay.
good.
Fantastic stuff. Welcome back. As you can see, while you were away, the politics did not stop. This is what we're going to talk about right here.
Politics never stops in this country, Jeff.
MPs challenging Ruto to resign for defying Uhuru. Gabriel?
That's a constitution office. And Jeff, you know, we've talked here separately.
Yes.
Politicians in this country will say something today. They'll say something else tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's a constitutional office, the way it has been set up. And, I mean, should they feel that that office needs some change as they are talking constitutionally, they can bring it back to the people, and the people will work on it. I mean, if you want, and, you know, we go back to where we were, where the head of state or, you know, is the one who appoints the vice president, you know, so be it.
Right.
But I thought, you know, the way things sit, it is actually good that, you know, the way the Constitution has been put, it is actually very nice the way you have two individuals. You know your vice president earlier, you are able to campaign with them, and so, you know, these are just issues that politicians will come up with. It is just a wave, you know, that we can ride. Because today they are saying this, tomorrow they'll say that.
But Gabriel, let me ask you, because when we look at the Jubilee narrative as is, they started off with Tuko Pamoja. Yes. But how does this story end, really? We're looking at a situation where it's not only two factions. Now there's almost Jubilee A, B, and C.
In fact, now
does it live to the term? Does it get to 2022?
That is a tragedy. And, you know, Jeff, let me tell you this. There was a lot of promise when the coalitions came together and merged to become Jubilee, the party. And it was also nice when we had in the NASA coalition. See, I've always called upon a country where you have bigger parties that are run on ideologies, that are run on agenda. So if you have a party like Jubilee that is fervently grounded on certain agendas, and you have another coalition, just like the way you have in the US, you have the Republicans and the Democrats, where if I'm joining a party, I am joining that party because of what they believe in, because of what I think I can contribute towards that particular party or coalition. And I thought we were going in the right place. Mm-hmm. But now politics has started, to play in. You may find, just like what has happened to NASA, happening to Jubilee. Mm-hmm. And this is where, members, of a certain party are called, during the PG meetings. You sit down, you iron things out. And I believe the fact that Jubilee has not done that may actually, mean doom for them. They had actually taken on a very good trajectory, Jeff. The war on corruption that we're talking about, we have seen serious people we never thought would be taken to court. We have seen the kind of development that we are able to witness, albeit the fact that many people will argue differently. We have actually been able to, at the very least, realize that actually coalitions and parties, stronger parties in this country can work. So instead of, following with that element or that particular trajectory, politics has come in. Factions has come in.
Ben, let me bring you on this as well, because they're looking at a situation where they're saying, and this is like halfway through the second term, yes, that now the DP is undermining the presidency and what he's been doing. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't they have said this from the first time they got into office, that this person isn't a good fit? We need to remedy this now. No, why at this particular point in time?
I wouldn't look at it that it has taken those MPs 7 years to realize that, because it was not the case. But
was he working well for the first term and now has changed his start?
It is evident that from the outset, they had the president and the deputy had a very good working relationship. And one thing that comes out very strongly is the fact that there was quite some bit of concentration, even in the first term, towards what they consider to be some of the Jubilee projects, right, a majority of which have turned out disastrous. But coming the second term, the president actually woke up to the reality, and some of his key aides and people within his inner circle were very vocal that the president is going to be very keen on his legacy in the second term, because they knew he didn't achieve much in the first term. You remember even David Murathe was on record saying as much. However, the president has been very vocal or very categorical, calling up politicians who are politicking throughout and asking them to focus more on development and service delivery. The fact that the DP has refused to heed that, in my view, actually amounts to insubordination. And you remember last year, there's a time the president was extremely categorical about some of these activities the DP and his team has been involved in, launching all manner of projects. And the DP defied and went ahead to continue doing the same. So it tells you of a huge disconnect between a president and his principal assistant, right, which I think is not healthy for any country. Sorry. And the one thing that you'll agree that has kept the Jubilee ship afloat, particularly is the handshake since March 2018. Mm-hmm. I don't think they would have pulled this far were the president not actually working closely with the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. I don't think they would. And
even as looking at this particular scenario, let me come to Dennis on this one, because we are at a point right now where we're wondering, okay, why is it, and he's asked this several times, not only with lifestyle audits, but the intense scrutiny on what he does, where he is, even as he's working in terms of delivering what he says is the Jubilee agenda in terms of what he's supposed to be doing. Why is it only William Ruto that is being looked at, even after it is the same president who said, kuna hii kijana naenda kutangatanga, and that's how that phrase actually came up. Yes, so yes, even as he goes around looking at this project, it's a mandate that came from above. He didn't bestow this on himself. His boss, the person who he is principal assistant to, is the very person who said, when he comes to your area, tell him what's not working, and he shall come and we shall make it happen. Why is this now the problem in what's going on? The very thing that the president said, I am close to you because my principal assistant will come to where you are,
Yes.
now is a problem when he goes to those particular places and is campaigning.
I think it's a whole question of policy and the whole question of the role and function and the manner in which the deputy president should relate with the president constitutionally. Because I keep asking myself, assuming we didn't have a deputy president, could the president still run? And I think the answer is yes, because we've really not seen, apart from the requirement that when the president is absent, the deputy president can come in and take over the functions without necessarily requiring to be reappointed or given special instructions, can proceed to execute the functions of the presidency, of course, except those limited to the function of the president in person, because there are those functions that are in personam. We call them that it's about Uhuru Kenyatta and not the office of the presidency.
Right.
And we have not seen much really benefit of having a deputy president. In fact, we need to ask a question, what is the difference? What have we gained by changing the constitution to let us have a deputy president's office that is protected constitutionally from what we used to have, where the president is the last person who has the call on this, appoints whoever he wants to appoint, will fire the person. After all, the buck stops at him.
Right.
So that has not been answered. Now the issue as to whether, therefore the question of Tanga, I think for me, the president was not speaking about it in good faith. It was a bit agitated at that time. He felt that the deputy president was a bit all over, doing everything else that he was not supposed to do.
Right.
And therefore the phrase Tanga, the word Tanga was not meant to praise the movement that DP Ruto was doing. It was essentially trying to demonstrate that this person is roaming around unnecessarily, is not useful in his movements.
Okay. I'll also bring in Honorable Jakawe Midiu on this particular conversation as well. First of all, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's a question I asked Gabriel. I'll ask you this as well. Jubilee Party started off very strong, boasted a super majority. The slogan was Tuko Pamoja. Right now, we saw two factions. Now it's almost three factions within the same party. How do you think this story ends? Do we get to 2022 with Jubilee as a party, or does it, just implode from within before the general election?
Good morning, Jeff. I said over a year ago that there was no NASA, there was no Jubilee. These were coalitions for convenience and political convenience. Numbers can help you in politics if you believe in something. And politics is about improving the lives of people. If you don't, you must go separate ways. And sometimes you form coalitions to win elections. And once you win election, if you are not focused, or if you don't know what you are doing, then the numbers must disagree. NASA, of course, was meant to be die because it didn't win anything, or it didn't assume office.
Right.
But Jubilee is tricky, because Jubilee was formed on a few fundamental things. And I think in 2013, it was understood that the unity between Kalenjins and Kikuyus would bring everlasting peace for this country, so that we don't fight every elections or after every elections over very fundamental issues, particularly land. There has not been land reform. You see people, Mao, I was there when I was the chief whip then. And it got to a point when we and the Kalenjin MPs, we were not talking because of the issue of Mao. People have still been evicted in Mao. I want to tell you that I think it's good for us not to keep hoping there can be Jubilee, because it is not there.
So it's dead in the water.
That is
doesn't
dead,
get to
and
the
dead
next
violently,
election.
dead very violently. And I can tell you, this I've heard on radio on my way here, the handshake MPs saying accept that you lost in Kibra and move on. What they are not saying appropriately, which has been said by one of them, Kamket, he has said something very interesting. He has said, Kibra is the beginning of the end for William Ruto. I've said it since last elections. We were here on this panel with Muthuma and another person, and I told viewers that let Mariga run. Mariga is actually, he is just a name in this whole saga. But I thought William Samoei Ruto was running too fast and not telling Kenyans why he's running too fast. And Kibra clamped him. If I were him, I would just go home and sleep, even take a holiday. He can afford and do what Atwoli has been advising him, or Manyora. Go back to Wazee, because he is too smart but not wise. And I can tell you, you cannot tell people from 2013, now we are in 2019, that you will be president in 2022 without telling Kenyans what you want to do for Kenyans. What do you want to do with Kenya?
And let me bring something that you've brought up there, speaking about the Kibra by-election. Another thing that came out from that is the fact that the former PM, Raila Odinga, said that first stop, Kibra by-election, next stop, the BBI. Right. It's coming that way. So as you look at it, is it a box that we're ticking so that this was just to gauge how popular we are, if we can push this BBI through? Kibra was the lab for that, and now that we know we have the numbers in this way, now the report can be tabled to the two gentlemen, President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga.
Jeff, we are going to do a mistake if we label both the BBI and the Kibra election as one and the same. I think these are two different animals.
But the people who actually brought it together are banding them together.
No, BBI, first of all, and this I've heard from both divides. I've had so many people. I mean, you have two divides on BBI. You have people who are saying, no, this BBI, we don't want BBI. And you have another group that's saying, oh, BBI. First of all, we do not know what is contained in the BBI report. So it is a little bit disingenuous if you are going to hit out on something that you do not know, one. Secondly, you cannot oversell something which you've not seen. What if it contains things that will improve the country, all right? What if it doesn't contain what the other people think it does contain? So it is always good to wait. Let us read the document. Same thing we did with Punguza Mzigo. Right. Let's wait. What does it contain? What does it say? Who does it speak to? Does it improve this country? Are we going to be better than where we are today? So those are some of the things, and those are some of the issues that we are going to look into and see how better it's going to be, or how different it's going to be. The issue about Kibra, if I was to go back to it, to me this is an election that's done and dusted. We may want to read more into it. You've had two people who actually called one another to congratulate, one another, and say no hard feelings. I'm looking forward to working with you. In fact, they taught this country something, that you can run for an election, you can lose graciously, and you can concede. These are some of the fruits that we should be seeing when we talk about maturity in our politics. So, Jeff, I think we should not rub it, hard as we are doing. Oh, this was it. I mean, there are certain people who've lost elections. Didn't ODM lose Bakassi South? Did did they lose in Ugenya? Was it, we should not make a party out of it. What Kibra needs now is leadership. They need, those are very big shoes to fit from the late Ken Okoth. So we shouldn't do the over-politicization of the Kibra seat. It's done and dusted. Let's look forward to what the person who lives in Kibra needs. So my take is, let's move away from enjoining these two. It will be a disservice.
Okay, we'll be coming back on that because I don't want you guys to respond that particular story as well. And also, even as we finish up on the Kibra by-election, the big question is, even as the two parties that were in this by-election, the two major parties, to be specific, Jubilee, of course, and ODM, went at it, and even now are still holding press conferences concerning that particular by-election. Conspicuously silent is the violence that took place, and the authorities should be looking into that. Haven't seen any arrests, haven't had any audits on that. Why the silence on that particular issue as well? We discuss that and get their views after the break. You want yours as well? Tweet us at K24 This Morning.